Today is May 2nd, 2025. My name is Melissa Ackerman, and I will be interviewing Rena Silverberg as part of our Jewish Family Service Past President compilation. How are you today, Rena?
Great, thank you, Melissa. How are you?
I'm great.
Good.
How did you get involved with Jewish Family Service?
Well, we have to go back about 35 years. 35, 45, 55 years. We moved to Dallas in 1966, and right away, friends that we knew here who lived in Dallas got me involved in Younger Set for the Federation, and I had been a social worker, so to speak, since I was 12 years old. So my interest was in what can I do to volunteer with an agency, an organization that helps people. And that led me to JFS. And there was a program called Helping Hands, and we're talking late 60s. Mm-hmm. And Bud got involved the same way I did, my husband Bud. Mm-hmm. And
what did Helping Hands do? What kind of
Helping
program was
Hands basically was available to help clients of the agency with, in the case of Russians, it was resettlement issues. It was whatever needed to be done. Mm-hmm. And that was my bailiwick. That's where I found satisfaction and feeling good about the work I could do in the community.
How had you been a social worker at 12? What were you doing?
That was, my parents were immigrants, and actually I was conceived in Poland. And my mother got to America pregnant with me in 1937, and I was born months after she arrived. My father could not leave Poland at that time because of the Polish draft, so he was able to get out a year and a half later. 1 week before Hitler invaded Poland. So I met my father when I was a year and a half old. My aunt and my uncle housed us.
Where? What city did you?
Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Okay.
And we have a picture from the Chattanooga Times newspaper of my father meeting up with my mother at the train station with me, a year and a half that he had never seen before, and my brother who left Poland at 5, who was then 6 and a half. Mm-hmm. And that picture is hanging in our apartment at the Legacy now. Mm-hmm. So growing up as a new American in an immigrant family where the family became aware of the loss of so much of their family in my childhood left a scar, left lots of scars. Mm-hmm. And I lost grandparents, I lost aunts, uncles, cousins, mm-hmm. And that stayed with me. So I always grew up with a feeling of caregiver, mm-hmm. caretaker, nurturer. Mm-hmm. My parents went on to have 4 more children, so there were 6 in my family. But the immigrant status, no matter how much English they learned, mm-hmm. the immigrant status was there.
Okay. So you were involved in Helping Hands, and from that, what did you do?
Bud was asked to be on the board. Mm-hmm. I was just a volunteer. You know what that means. Mm-hmm. So at that time, I don't know if there was a written or an unspoken policy, but spouses could not serve on the board at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Bud was very active, and he became president of the board in '75. I continued to work for Jewish Family Service.
And what other kinds of things were you involved in volunteering for
Um,
at JFS? Other different programs?
well, at the time, in those years, we had our third child in '67, so I had a baby
Mm-hmm.
and two children, 6 and 8.
Mm-hmm.
So with my spare time, I was very active in starting the Chai B'nai B'rith Women chapter here.
Mm-hmm.
I was very active in Younger Set, and with whatever JFS needed to be done.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, there was a lot of resettlement work with the Russians. This was in the '70s, the late '70s.
Okay.
And finally, when Bud's presidency ended, I was asked to be on the board.
Do you remember what year that was, roughly?
Probably '78.
Okay, so you were on the board.
He was through at '77.
Okay, so you went on at 78. And so when did you end up, I assume you were on the board and then you worked up through the...
Right, and I was president from '83 to '85.
Okay. And what was your title during your tenure? President of the board?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Who were some of the various leaders during your tenure? Who was involved?
With the agency, or with all of the agencies?
With the agency, with JFS.
Bernie Goldstein had been the only executive director for 25 years. And during Bud's presidency, Bernie retired, and Arnold Marks was hired to become the executive director. So by the time I ascended, I worked with Arnie. We worked very closely. Bernie's MO was pretty much running a closed shop, doing a lot himself, that Arnie allowed board members and volunteers to assume some of those responsibilities. So it kind of opened up the agency for lay people to take part.
And what were some of the programs that were going on as you were involved on the board and assumed presidency? Was there a food pantry at that point? Was
there wasn't a food pantry, as I recall. There was another agency called Jewish Vocational Counseling. So Federation was the umbrella, the way we looked at it. All of our funding came from Federation.
There was no separate fundraising at that point?
No separate fundraising, no donors to JFS. And if we did get any philanthropy directed to JFS, Federation deducted that amount from the agency's budget. But anyway, as far as the agencies, Federation was the umbrella, the home, Golden Acres, Jewish Family Service, the JCC, and Jewish Vocational Counseling Services. It was a separate standalone agency with a director and a board. And during the time that Arnie and I worked together, I don't remember the year exactly, but Jewish Vocational Service became a part of Jewish Family Service. And we developed that arm of service in hiring and in providing vocational expertise to the community.
What were there some partnerships between Jewish Family Service and the other community agencies at that time? As you were involved in president?
This one, the one with vocational, we work closely with Federation. provided volunteers for the home's needs. Not that they didn't have a cadre of volunteers on their own. And the same with the J. We work collaboratively, all the agencies at that point.
Were there coalitions with organizations or government outside the Jewish community?
Well, it became maybe in the early 1980s, Federation decided to get a government grant, Section 8202 housing, which Federation provided the staffing for the building of a building on the campus at Golden Acres. And that was the birth of Echad. And I had been the intake worker at Echad while I was a volunteer and on the board at JFS. We filled the building with a lot of the Russian Jews who came over, and so definitely a partnership with the home and the Federation in the development of Echad.
Is Echad, what ever happened with Echad?
That's a good question. It remained on the campus. I interviewed some remarkable people, one of whom moved here from New York was Nate Levine's father, who came from New York to live here at Echad because his son was here.
Okay.
And interestingly, let's see, I think for as long as Golden Acres existed
On that campus.
Echad did too.
Okay.
And provided housing not only for Jewish people but non-Jewish as well.
Okay. What significant local, national, or international events had an effect on your era?
Okay.
Anything you can think of?
It was, I'm trying to remember, I want to say 98. I'm not sure of the year, but the General Assembly was held here in Dallas. Fanny Shannon was still the bulwark, and the speaker, keynote speaker, was Golda Meir, and that to me was breathtaking.
Is that from the picture that was in the Federation office for forever, was them
With
hugging?
Fanny and Goldie, and that was when the GA was here. It was once in a lifetime feeling of, this is what I'm doing and why.
It's been very exciting.
Yeah.
Who were some of the prominent community supporters of JFS? Donors, philanthropists, volunteers?
You know, we couldn't have, the volunteers were the board members. We had working boards. I know a lot of boards look at who can our donors be because we need financing to be able to do all these programs. That wasn't our problem then. We couldn't have private donors, so our donors were worker bees, and our volunteers were our board members.
Was there a volunteer coordinator at that point?
You know, I know there was one before Sue Saya. I don't remember who that was, but I definitely remember my friend Sue Saya
Sue and Janine
coming in as being the volunteer coordinator.
And it was needed because there was a lot of coordinating.
Needed. A lot of people in the community wanted to work for family service, so it had to be organized.
Absolutely. What changes have you experienced in the Dallas Jewish community?
Oh my goodness, so many. Just in the agency itself, it's hardly recognizable. I think that the people who came after us have done a fabulous job. I'll tell you in just a little bit about my experience in the 90s with JFS, but after Arnie Marks' term as executive director, Michael Fleischer was hired, and he opened up all sorts of inroads into community needs, not just Jewish needs, certainly Jewish needs too. I remember United Way used to always be impressed when budget time came with how well the Jewish community takes care of our own. And they voiced that. As far as leaders in the community, Maury Newberger, Stanley Pearl, Murray Munvis, so many of those names, Irvin Donsky, they really were strong, forward-thinking individuals, and they were always good about understanding the work of JFS.
Were most of the clients Jewish?
I would say yes, most of the clients were Jewish, certainly not all.
What were some of the initiatives to increase interest in Jewish Family Service and its mission?
Okay. For one thing, I neglected to say before, with new programming, we started a program called JFLE, Jewish Family Life Education.
Okay.
And that was primarily to keep ourselves updated on what changes were happening and what we could do to be there.
Was that a program for staff, or was it a program for the community?
It was a program for the board.
Okay.
Started with the board. JFLE is what we called it. And we developed programs for the community.
Okay.
And presented them. Another very important piece of our agency became the adoption program. We had a phenomenal caseworker, Sherry Portwood, who was identified with that program of JFS for decades. It developed into not only placing children, but taking on prospective mothers, biological mothers, as clients, caring for them through pregnancies, providing mental health services to their families, as well as to prospective adoptive parents, and taking it all the way through to placing a child with an adoptive set of parents.
Did you ever get to witness
Yes,
the
I
adoption?
did. And as a matter of fact, I have a niece and a nephew who were adopted that way. But it was very heartwarming. But that also changed and grew because we had to deal with the issue of what happens when a single person wants to adopt a child. It wasn't a common procedure then. And we went through that and grew into it so that did occur. The records, by the way, were always kept confidential, but years later, as I recall, I hope I'm correct, records could be opened for a biological child seeking to know who their parents, birth parents were.
And how long did the adoption program last? I know that it's not been around for a while. Do you remember?
Yeah, I don't know when it stopped being an integral part of the agency. I really don't.
In relation to your time at JFS, what are you most proud?
Well, I have to say that at the end of my presidency, around 85, I had a 20-year history with the agency as a volunteer. And I felt terrible that it was not going to be a part of my life anymore. So I went to the director, Arnie, and I said, look, I have a bachelor's degree in social work. I have 20 years experience as a volunteer here. I know this agency backward and forward. Hire me, please, and let me be staff here. And he thought about it, and he said, I'll tell you what. You go and get a master's degree, and then come back and I'll consider hiring you. Well, I was 50 years old by that time, and I was no longer, the young mother, but I did just that. I went to UTA for 2 years, and I became an MSW. And I will say that 2 of my classmates, when I was getting my master's, were Lisa Brodsky, who is currently the director of High, and Jill Cumnock, who is currently the director of Ronald McDonald House. So I was in great company.
Excellent company.
They were the age of my daughter, Stephanie, but they were my friends, and still are.
So, what happened? Did you go back and ask for a job?
Well, I didn't have to, because about that time, the board started looking for another executive director. And so before I knew it, here I have my MSW, the board comes to me and said, would you consider being the interim executive director while we do a national search? I was thrilled. So pride, my goodness, yes, I was grateful to Arnie for motivating me to go and get my MSW, and I was grateful that I was in the position to be able to do this. The problem became that all my friends from the staff began looking at me as the boss. That was difficult, but they made it much easier.
And how long did you serve in that capacity?
Well, I was asked to take it for 6 months, but I was in that position for 2 years.
Ah, okay.
From, I think, 90 to 92 or 91 to 93 until Michael Fleischer was hired and started working.
Okay.
So it was a phenomenal experience.
Did you continue with your master's work? I mean, did you start counseling or
No, not
then.
Not then. In the interim, after I got my master's until I became the interim director, I had become a family mediator and had a mediation practice in family and divorce.
So that's its own kind of counseling, I
Yes,
imagine.
right. But while I was the director, I did not do any private counseling. I did go back to it when I left the agency.
Okay. What is something about Jewish Family Service that is not commonly known that you'd like the community to know about?
There are lots of backstories. There are so many backstories. We look at staff as not part of the community sometimes, as service providers, but they are all people with human stories, with families, with illnesses, with problems. This leads me to remember that another area that Arnie and I worked on was cleaning up the personnel code and defining responsibilities of board members versus staff members.
Okay.
Because it was very easy in those days to be a volunteer and think you had the ability to counsel people. So we felt that it was very important to make a division of labor, so to speak.
Anything else you'd like to talk about that I didn't touch on? You've had a long history with JFS.
Yes, we do. I'm just in awe when I come in and I see what Kathy has followed up on Michael's work and more, and what the potential that they could foresee for this agency. I'm so proud of JFS. I'm so proud of my affiliation with JFS and of the friendships that I have made and kept through the years. And Dallas is so fortunate to have this agency in our community.
Thank you so much, Rena. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you.